can, go on and raise your hand, start raising your hand so that I can decide it. Okay. We have the order one by one, the first three speakers. So first of all, beginning with today's session, a very good evening to all of you and welcome to the Policy Manthan for today. Now for this session, the core theme is increasing opportunity for students to learn better and learn more. As the NEP 2020 tries to move away from an immensely stereotypical selection of subjects and increase the scope of pedagogical processes, it is imperative for policymakers and discussants to discuss this topic in detail. And the various sub-themes which are covered under this topic and our speakers will be making their views clear on are making extracurricular activities accessible, enriching education with non-conventional methods of teaching and learning, promoting diversity within curriculum, aligning education with new career opportunities, schemes for innovative assessment and evaluation processes, are flipped classrooms a better fit for today's education, incorporating apprenticeship experiences, pros and cons, extracurricular as an integrative component of education and not just refreshment. So I think that most of the speakers must be very clear with the house rules, and I would request all the speakers to switch on their camera since the session is being live streamed on YouTube currently. Also, just going through the house rules once again, we have to be very respectful and mindful of each speaker, and every speaker is going to adhere to a time of maximum 3 minutes. Minimum time is 2 minutes. And we have to be very respectful. This is a democratic session. This is a democratic gathering. So the focus is more on listening rather than speaking. But I would invite the speakers one by one. We'll decide the order too. We'll begin with the first three speakers and then we'll go on. So please keep your mics on mute when someone is speaking. I mean, at the end of the session, we will definitely be having a certain question answer round or a closing statement round. It depends on the flow of the session. So let's move on. I will just begin with the order in which I saw the hand icons appearing, which is first Ketki, then Anmol, and then Isha. After that, I think all the speakers can keep their hand raised so that I can decide the order. Yeah. Ketki, I think you can unmute and speak and begin today's session.
Yeah, hi, Alankrita. Actually, I'm traveling, so I might not be able to switch on my camera since the network bandwidth is really low. So is it okay if I just speak?
Yeah. It's okay.
All right.
Completely fine.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, great. So a very good day to all of you present here. And I'd like to begin today's session by presenting my views on the topic enriching education with non-conventional methods of teaching and learning. So as we all know, education is the bedrock of societal progress and individual empowerment. And in a rapidly evolving global landscape where specialization and higher education have started playing a greater role in deciding life outcomes, traditional methods of teaching and learning are also being challenged by the need for innovative and non-conventional approaches. And in response to this, our government introduced the National Education Policy in 2020, largely aiming to revamp the educational system and integrate modern and unconventional methods to enhance learning outcomes. So I wish to delve deeper into the potential of non-conventional methods in enriching education in India at all levels of the schooling system, and with specific focus on the changes brought in by the NEP. So first, let's begin by understanding what we mean by non-conventional methods. Non-conventional methods of teaching and learning try to move beyond classroom lectures and rote memorization. These methods largely prioritize critical thinking, creativity, and practical application of knowledge instead of just theoretical replication of the same. Some prominent non-conventional approaches that have been a significant part of the Indian learning and teaching tradition include project-based hands-on learning, experiential learning, and inquiry-based learning, flipped classrooms, collaborative learning, and digital learning, obviously due to the changes brought in by technology. The NEP, a comprehensive reform in Indian education after almost 3 decades, advocates for a holistic and a flexible approach to education by emphasizing an integration of non-conventional methods to foster the values that I mentioned above. So it encourages the adoption of non-conventional methodologies at all levels of education. It promotes experiential learning, vocational education, arts integrated and sports integrated education, and most importantly, technology enabled learning. It also emphasizes the incorporation of all of these methods in early childhood care and education, especially focusing on play based and activity based learning to build a strong foundation. So I'd just like to dive deeper into these methods of non-conventional learning, beginning with project-based learning. So project-based learning is an effective non-conventional method encouraged by the NEP, and it allows students to actively engage in real-world problem solving and application of knowledge. Students can choose from a range of topics of interest, conduct research, collaborate with peers, and present their findings in such a way that it helps society at large and enlarges their worldview from being restricted just to the textbook to a wider scope of the society. Thus, this approach enhances critical thinking, creativity, and communication. Another cornerstone of the NEP is the flipped classroom system, where traditional teaching methods are inverted. Students learn the fundamental concepts at home through online resources and lectures, while classroom time is dedicated to discussions, collaborative projects, and problem solving. So what this approach tries to do is personalized learning. It also encourages interaction and allows for a deeper understanding of the subject matter. And with the proliferation of digital technology, the NEP also acknowledges the importance of integrating technology into education. This policy advocates the use of digital tools and platforms to enhance learning experiences and facilitate interactive learning, and try to bridge the gaps that come with regional access to education and access to resources as well. This helps in reaching a wider audience and also can cater to diverse speeds and styles of learning. So, to conclude my piece, I would like to say that this method, even though it is very ambitious and also is the need of the hour, is also, it's potent with its own set of challenges. So, while they promise, very significant outcomes, their effective implementation also requires overcoming various challenges. These include infrastructure gaps, adequate training of educators, equitable access to technology, and also changing traditional mindsets that favor a certain style of learning. Additionally, evaluating and measuring the efficacy of these methods also poses a significant challenge that our system needs to cater to. So, in conclusion, while the NEP has set a stage for transformative shifts in the methods of teaching and learning, there is still a lot that needs to be done. To fully realize the potential of these methods, it is crucial to first address challenges and ensure adequate training and infrastructure, thus fostering a holistic and empowering education system for the youth of India. That's all from my side. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Keerti, for sharing your views with us. And you were definitely right. While this plan is very ambitious, it is going to be met with challenges. But just because this plan is ambitious, it is, I don't think that it's very fair enough to hold it back, because I think the real challenge which lies in encountering and tackling these difficulties of infrastructural and structural biases, as well as hurdles. So I think that eliminating them will be the first step towards implementation and also a new formulation of these policies. So thank you so much, Keerti. So the next order of speakers is as follows. First, Anmol, then Isha, then we have Adiba. So go on, Anmol. You can unmute your mic.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So my topic is aligning education with new career opportunities. Now, with the advent of new education policy, the focus has been to aim for holistic development of students by equipping them with vital 21st century skills. And this is to improve their essential learning, critical thinking, and emphasize on experiential education. Additionally, vocational education shall be introduced with internship opportunities. Now, in my opinion, it is a well-planned initiative because our education system um, needs to be updated to actually move away from just cramming up for our exams, getting good grades and leveling up, because frankly this has not helped at all, and adults have found themselves clueless at one point or another in their professional journey. Now this initiative actually will prevent future adults from facing such sorry scenarios, because the students will be somewhat trained and know what to expect. They won't have to just one day wake up and figure out what skills and aptitude they excel in to choose a career. Also, they will have more options to explore as they started earlier to figure things out. Now, how can education be aligned with new career opportunities? So I have like 5 suggestions while I did my reading for this policy, Manthan. So one that was recommended by Hunt Institute was to reimagine what career and job skills exposure can look like in a school environment. For example, current skills development efforts are generally targeted towards post-secondary and adult education, while at elementary level, students largely learn traditional skills like reading, writing, mathematics. However, certain soft skills can be taught as early as in elementary school, such as communication, teamwork, money management, etc. Secondly, there's a need to invest in infrastructure to build relevant digital technology equipment and educator learning. We know we have entered the fourth industrial revolution, which means the future is IT and its various applications. It will require all students and teachers to have access to technology to communicate and properly engage with programs. Educators need to be equipped and learned enough to teach students workplace skills, such as Microsoft Office Suite, design programs, and programming softwares and other such computer literacy skills. Third is to develop industry recognized certifications. Now, while it may seem too soon to worry about certifications at school level, it is this non conventional method which is needed to cope up with the competition inflow in future, well, actually currently as well. So students can actually acquire appropriate certifications that can be an asset for them in the future. For example, certification in a new computer language, or certification in accounting and taxation, whichever they might easy and capable of doing. It can maintain and build a competitive value in a student. Fourth is to build student self-awareness. Schools can help students identify their values, interests, personality, and strengths. Once they have an understanding of who they are as an individual, they can help gather important information sorry, about possible majors and career paths. This way, a lot of ambiguity, uncertainty, and indecision can be addressed way earlier in life, saving themselves from turning into anxious adults who constantly worry about their careers. Lastly, the fifth suggestion, which even I know is quite far-fetched, but it's still a somewhat solution, is education employer collaboration. Although education typically provides a good foundation and mindset for pursuing a future career, it can fall short in providing up-to-date education that aligns with employer needs. Here, education employer collaboration can provide a solution to equip the education system with up-to-date skills and in-demand competencies. Businesses can support this collaboration by investing and working with education institutions to offer upskilling and reskilling opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anmol. And I think that you summed up the essence of the topic quite well, and you made some very pertinent suggestions. However, I would like to suggest one point that about certifications. Not only do they provide an industrial license to work, like for the students to work, it also acts as an incentive so that the students are much more encouraged to pick up such training things and it's like to go forward with the course, because it's also a concern that even when schools or even when the government tries to provide these facilities, how many students will actually opt for it? So I think that an equal diversification is required in all these industrial certifications, because I think that we can also span subjects like human resources. We can also span subjects like digital marketing, which are, I think, increasing in scope, because like being a backend developer, UI, UX, it's like very concentrated within one field, and it will be very pertinent to ask students to take up skills in various fields. So yeah, I mean, I think that the suggestions were very well pondered upon and very well made. So thank you so much, Anmol. And the next order of speakers will be Isha, Adiba, and then Radhika.
Hi everyone. So my topic for today will be the same as Anmol, so it might just be an add-on to that, aligning education with new career opportunities. So to start this discussion, I have researched the top 10 fastest growing jobs, and this is sourced from the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs Report 2023. So it's a latest report and a credible one. So it has the top 10 fastest growing jobs, but we'll limit this discussion to the top three, which happen to be first, AI and ML, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning specialist. Second is sustainability specialist, and third is business intelligence analyst. Now we'll be talking about these career opportunities in context with the policy recommendations, or rather approaches as suggested by the NEP 2020. We'll be discussing the 5 main approaches, which have somewhat been covered by Anmol also, but I'll just recall them. Multidisciplinary approach, integration of vocational education, internships and experiential learning, flexible credit-based system, and industry collaboration. So moving on to the first or the fastest growing job in the world right now, which is that of an AI and ML specialist. What can multidisciplinary approach look like for it? So multidisciplinary, as we know, is blending different disciplines, because education is kind of holistic and subjects can't just exist in isolation. So for AI and ML, this can look like something like blending computer science with, say, economics, and that could lead to something like AI driven economic forecasting. And I mean, AI and ML are just not something restricted to tech companies. It's something that is being integrated increasingly in other fields, and that makes it more job relevant in a way. Talking about the integration of vocational education, which is basically skill building in the field of AI, that could look something like a hands-on experience with AI softwares, especially those which are the most in demand right now in the industry. For the internships and experiential learning part, students can be made to intern at tech companies for, say, developing chatbots for customer support or taking up some other AI projects. Now we'll discuss the flexible credit-based system. So basically, the flexible credit-based system is about more flexibility for students to choose their curriculum, and more flexibility to the educators as well for tailoring curricula in alignment with student needs. For this particular career opportunity, this could look something like specialized courses for, say, something like ethics in AI. That is what a flexible system could look like. Talking about the fifth and the last policy recommendation, which is industry collaboration. This could look like online certifications in collaboration with the top industrial companies that we discussed just right now. So this could be in the form of job simulations as well. I mean, job simulations can I personally feel that they're the best way to experience what workplaces are actually like. Now we proceed on to the second fastest growing job, that is of a sustainability specialist. I mean, sustainability has become a buzzword these days, as we know that, like many other countries, India is trying to like we're trying to align our education system with the achievement of the sustainability development goals. So moving on, a multidisciplinary approach in just a second. Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. So a multidisciplinary approach for sustainability means that we can experiment a lot with environmental studies. We can blend it with, say, sociology, and that would lead to something like the social impact of eco-friendly policies. Vocational education could mean in the field of sustainability that we provide a hands-on experience for students, for example, in renewable energy. This could mean that we teach students at the school level, we give them the experience of installing and maintaining solar panels, as an example. Moving on to the internships part, this could look like working with NGOs to conduct sustainability impact assessments for particular projects, for example, urban development projects. So students can have a hands-on experience in that way. And talking about the curriculum, as for the flexible credit-based system, this would mean that we provide courses in specific fields related to sustainability, such as courses in sustainable agriculture. And for the industry collaboration part, educational institutes can partner with government agencies such as the Pollution Central Board or Pollution Control Board or the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and involve students. Even at the school level, we can involve students in public awareness campaigns for sustainability. Talking about the third fastest growing job, which will be the last one for this discussion, it is that of fintech and data analyst. I believe that for India personally, like for India specifically, fintech is something that we should be focusing on, because as seen in the G20 also, India has emerged to be a leader in fintech with the UPI innovation. So it becomes important that we focus on that. A multidisciplinary approach would look something like blending finance with, say, machine learning, and that will lead to something like stock market predictions. I mean, the multidisciplinary approach is really experimental, and it depends on almost like each educator and each student what they derive out of this approach, because the flexibility that the NEP 2020 provides, I think along with that flexibility comes a lot of responsibility also, and a lot of scope for experimentation. Talking about the vocational aspect in the fintech and data analyst field would look like, say, fintech app development or working on softwares relating to financial data analysis. For the internship part, students can intern with banks, and they can have an in-depth knowledge of how customer transactions work, or how fraud detection is being implemented at the actual workplace. Talking about the curriculum, the flexible credit-based system, again, this could mean that we provide them specialized courses in blockchain technology, because blockchain is an integral part of fintech, and it's also on the rise right now. The last point for industry collaboration, again, we can have courses in financial modeling by leading finance companies. Educational institutes can collaborate with leading finance companies and provide financial modeling courses, which are actually in a lot of demand right now. So summing up, I think that these 5 recommendations I discussed, multidisciplinary approach and vocational aspect, the internships and experiential learning, the flexible credit-based system, and the industry collaboration, all these 5 or even more recommendations which I've not discussed here, if we use the kind of flexibility that is given to us, or specifically to the educators, by focusing them on the detailed aspects of each career opportunity that is on the rise right now, I think we can come up with a very practical education system that will create students who are already job ready and are equipped with the skills, just the right skills that are needed. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Isha, for delving into the topic very comprehensively. And although Anmol and your topic was the same, I would like to say that your focus on specific jobs was kind of the highlight, while Anmol's policy suggestions were the highlight of her speech. I would say that, especially in the arena of sustainability, since I personally have worked in that arena, I would say that the integration of economics is also very important, because having studied development processes, it's also very important that we focus on this upcoming dimension of environmental economics. Because as future entrepreneurs, as future, let's say, professionals, I think that we need to pay more attention, as well as, bring it to the attention of the youth too, about certain components such as ecotourism and ESG initiatives, ESG reports, because these initiatives are not only focused at creating jobs, but they are also focused at creating a certain credibility for either the organizations they work in or the organizations they are going to head. So, talking about the other solutions and other professions, especially fintech, I think that the solutions were rather well made, and I think it was a very detailed analysis of the same, since the arena of fintech is one of the up and coming, like, let's say, verticals, especially for India to, make some key innovations in. Also, I would say that there's a certain suggestion I would like to make, that let's not focus this completely in the arena of, let's say, urban schools, because I would say that focusing on these activities in a rural perspective, in rural public education system, is as important as, promoting these activities in urban setup. Because I think if we are going forward with a rural setup, we can focus more on community initiatives, or maybe setting up incentivizing, institutions like libraries, and maybe employ students as librarians, so that they acquire key skills in library sciences and management too. Because I think that while computerization and moving towards the digital age is a good approach, while we have to focus on this technological aspect too, we are also going to focus on correcting certain infrastructural wrongs that have been happening, all this while. And it will definitely require a lot of community attention, especially. So, very well said, Isha. And the next order of the speakers, let me lay it out. Adiba, then we have Radhika, and then Nena. So, Adiba, you can unmute.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'll be discussing the topic incorporating apprenticeship experience and the pros and cons associated with it. So the National Education Policy 2020 has brought about a transformative vision for the education in India, and within its framework, apprenticeship does hold a very unique potential. So I'll be considering the opportunities and the challenges that India currently faces in integrating the apprenticeship experiences under the NEP 2020. So let's talk about the pros first. So skill development and employability. The NEP 2020, it emphasizes a skill-based education system. So by incorporating apprenticeships, India can actually align its education with the demand of the job market, and it would be thereby it would enhance the employability and reduce unemployment among the youth. Uh, Next would be like there would be flexible learning pathways. So the NEP also promotes flexibility in learning. So apprenticeships generally they offer an alternative to the traditional academic routes, like it the traditional academic routes, which are just the pen and papers kind of things. So it enables students to actually gain practical skills while pursuing formal education, and it provides a more holistic and tailored approach to learning. Industry academia collaboration. So apprenticeships generally foster the collaboration between the educational institutions and industries, which is a key objective of the NEP. So this partnership ensures that education remains relevant and up to date with the industry needs. So it benefits both the students and as well as the employers. entrepreneurship and innovation. So apprenticeships can actually nurture an entrepreneurial spirit among students. So generally through apprenticeships, students work closely with businesses and can learn more about innovation and business operations. It would foster a culture of entrepreneurship, which is also another central theme of the NEP. Global competitiveness. So, developing a skilled workforce through apprenticeships can enhance India's global competitiveness. The NEP's internationalization goals can be realized by actually producing graduates who are not only academically proficient but also globally competitive in their skills. So, having said all these pros, I would now discuss the cons of the apprenticeship culture. So, infrastructure and resources. So, implementing apprenticeship programs at a scale requires very substantial investment in infrastructures, training centers, and qualified trainers. Ensuring equitable access to such resources is generally challenging, and most importantly, in the rural areas. Regulatory framework. So the NEP also calls for a regulatory reform, but navigating these changes can be complex. Ensuring like a regulatory framework that encourages and supports apprenticeship while safeguarding the rights and interests of the apprentices is a very delicate balancing act. Awareness and stigma. So, changing the societal perceptions about vocational education and apprenticeship is an uphill battle. So, many still, many people have that mindset and still perceive the traditional degrees to be superior than vocational training, which lacks an enthusiasm among the students and as well as the parents. Inclusivity. So NEP also emphasizes on inclusivity, but ensuring that apprenticeship opportunities are accessible to all, including women and the marginalized communities. It requires a very focused effort to overcome these societal and economic barriers. And lastly, quality assurance. So maintaining the quality in apprenticeship programs is very essential. India actually needs mechanism to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of these programs to ensure that apprentices require like they receive quality training. So to sum up, I would like to say that incorporating apprenticeship experiences in India under the NEP is a very bold step towards the education with industry needs, but it also possesses challenges in terms of infrastructure, regulation, awareness, inclusivity, and quality assurance. To actually make the most of this opportunity, concerted efforts are required in all the levels. It includes significant investments in infrastructure, regulatory reforms that strikes a balance between flexibility and safeguards, awareness campaigns to change societal perceptions, and measures to ensure the inclusivity and quality. So, under the visionary leadership of the NEP, India does have the potential to transform its education system and create a workforce that is not only knowledgeable but also highly skilled. So, this opportunity has to be embraced with a lot of dedication and innovation, recognizing the true potential of the nation actually obviously lies in the hands of its skilled and empowered youth. So it's important for each and every individual to like understand this both the dimensions of the apprenticeship and like contribute towards it. That's it.
Thank you so much, Adiba, for bringing some really pertinent pros and cons of the apprenticeship experience. Because, in my opinion, first of all, the focus should not be just on making us knowledgeable or skilled, but I feel that an apprenticeship experience will also be a very strong propelling force, and it will be a good introduction to, a professional sphere. And as far as you recollect our last session on workplace ethics and sexual
Yeah.
harassment, I feel that a lot of times that these things are condoned, or maybe these things are not vocalized enough, it's also because we lack the knowledge about the professional recourses we can take within a workspace. So I think that while we focus on skill development, we also focus on a certain ethical development, which is associated with apprenticeship experiences. Also, I think one of the standout points of your speech was, the social hierarchy where traditional education, degrees, and colleges ranked above, because this is very pertinent in India as well as a developed nation like Korea. Because what Korea had, I mean, it had a very famous adage. There are three universities there. Seoul, then there's Korea National University, then I think there's Yonsei. So together, these colleges are known as the Sky Group of colleges. And after, like, most of the parents and most of the students in Korea actually take this 8-hour exam, university entrance exam, to secure admissions in one of these top universities, maybe in one of the varsities or something like that. And I think in that case, vocational education in Korea itself is being looked down upon. It has always been looked down upon, because it was considered as an advent for, like, the lesser academically inclined students. And I think one of the major challenges would be to fight this perception that maybe academic achievements and validation might not be a very sustainable approach if you have to encounter the challenges of a workplace and develop emotional quotient, a social quotient, along with an intelligence quotient. So very well said, Adiba. Now the next round of speakers would combine Radhika, Naina, then Harshita, and then Nishtha. So we'll start with Radhika. Radhika, you may unmute.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, Radhika, you're audible.
Okay, there can be a lag at my end, so I'm sorry about that. So
It's okay, you can
I'll be talking
continue.
about extracurriculars as an integrative component of education. Okay, I'll be talking about extracurriculars as an integrative component of education and not just refreshment. So to begin with, we all know education is important. It's a basic human right. United Nations says so, Constitution of India guarantees it, landmark judgments of the Supreme Court have also echoed the same. But neither are all educational institutions the same in India, nor are the capabilities of students sharpened the same way. Firstly, in India, there's a difference in who runs them. There are schools that are run by government, some by private, some by not-for-profit. And naturally, there are minor differences in quality of education imparted, despite following a national or a state curriculum. And along with these differences, there's also an added difference between a tier 3, tier 2, and a tier 1 school. And this is why when we look around us, there is a difference in children's skills and behaviors, which is so evident because the schools we go to determine the opportunities and exposures we get or don't get. And this edge or lack thereof is dependent on extracurricular activities. Solely academic education doesn't determine that. For example, a physics topic, whether being taught in English or in a student's mother tongue, they have the same objective, that the student must grasp the topic. But we have to ask if that knowledge is enough. It will surely help them reproduce the answer in the exam hall, but to be confident, to have soft skills that equip you, understanding topics to score high marks are not sufficient. And that's where extracurriculars come in. These activities are meant for students to pursue their interests outside of their academic work, to encourage them to make time for their hobbies, to improve their skill set, and even align it with career goals. For example, various clubs for science or robotics or coding, literary clubs, or community outreach programs. These refrain them from having a myopic worldview. It encourages them to know that there's a world outside exams where they can also learn, contribute, and thrive. And this doesn't necessarily have to be restricted to only tier 1. For my research paper, I had the chance to visit government schools and observe and learn from them how they include activities and skill development in education. And I learned that in the last couple of years, block education officers in Karnataka have organized a taluk level fest of sorts to increase inter-school competitions and increase awareness on the opportunities post 10th standard. And despite the very real fund constraints and other logistic issues, such seminars and fests can be organized at the largest taluk level school or a district level school. Sorry. Such opportunities to compete with students from different towns in various competitions, whether literary or sports, they help inculcate team spirit. They help inculcate healthy competition, ambition, drive, and most importantly, an opportunity to grow that a simple class competition wouldn't have provided. And these initiatives are also in line with today's theme as well, increasing opportunities for students to learn better and to learn more. And at least from what I saw in my school and in most schools, they have a physical education class, but simply adding an hour to play weekly once or twice, that doesn't make a huge difference. Refreshments are required, yes, but for a truly holistic education, extracurriculars should be integrated. And these lessons, that these activities that we learn from these activities, it can be argued that they are more important in real life. So it's not just about whether we need it, but it's also about what outcomes we see in our society because of the lack of the approach. For example, the rising number of suicide cases in some of the country's top institutions. The cases that we see before and after the results of an entrance exam, they tell a very different story, which makes us wonder how did we regress so much, considering that schools were supposed to prepare students for the real world. Yet here we are, where students feel helpless and quit it all even before they face the so-called real world. And if the place that is set up to cater to the needs of students also fails, where do the students go? Why should we encourage children to go to school? They say, after all, that there's a difference between being literate and being educated. So schools are meant to equip, to learn, to be educated, to have fun learning, to pick up languages or learn about authors and poets and fundamentals of maths and science, and of course the routine, discipline, and structure that comes with it. So schools, which are meant to equip, they're also supposed to push us out of our comfort zones and discover more about ourselves. But these days, the pressure, stress, and fear has taken over. And somehow we have now ended up with institutions where students feel helpless and they're encouraged to get marks and pressurized so much that if they don't do well, they start feeling worthless. And that's why students need a good support system and a new tool as well, which the extracurriculars can help them, and it could also help them build a good self-esteem. Along with that, we'll also need policies that ensure that happens. For example, NEP makes sure that there's no hard distinction between arts, commerce, and science, and students can study subjects of their choice, along with the textbooks that are made student-centric and now have activity-based exercises. It's a good step, but we will need
Okay, so I feel that there are some disruptions. So Radhika, if you can wind up the speech in the next 30 seconds or 1 minute or so, it will be great. Yeah.
education. For instance, making a range of activities available to cater managed by students, led activities where the teacher can share their way. Because it's not fair that some students can be provided with training to. So I was just good use to curriculum the ground level. And in the past, few are interested. And whenever I asked a teacher if a student would be interested or think that it was another burden to be managed, I have always been met with some version of they would love to do anything that involves skipping a class. So since the students are interested, I think it can be a great avenue to de-stress and they could develop a coping mechanism for life, or it could just bring them sheer joy that being confined to classrooms won't. And for this to be uniformly executed, we need a curriculum that treats extracurriculars as an integrated component of education. And only then can we see a ground level change uniformly. That's all.
I think the suggestions were quite well made, as well as some observations about integrating these competitions, tests, and networking events at block and taluka levels. So I think that you're carrying out your research pretty well, because I think the objective of research is precisely this, to acquaint us with, let's say, something which was not known before, something which was only known at the very surface level. Because what I would say is that while we integrate all these experiences, not merely as refreshments, but as an integrative component of education, it will be a better approach to it. Because I think we also had this, I think, research paper in the January-March cohort, which talked about how accessibility to resources merely does not translate into whether they are being used very well for the purpose as an integrative component of education. So I think very well pointed out and articulated, Radhika. Now the next set of speakers, first will be Nena, then Harshita, Nishtha, and I think then we can have Jess Maria. Yeah. Go on, Nena.
Good evening, everyone. I will first start by speaking upon promoting diversity within the curriculums, and then I will continue with extracurriculars. And extracurricular is an integrative component of education and not just profession. The goal of a diverse curriculum is to create an inclusive and equitable educational environment where students can see themselves being represented, learn about each other, and also develop the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in a multicultural and interconnected world. And it also promotes tolerance, empathy, and a deeper understanding of the complexities of society. And it can be promoted through various ways, such as the teacher can incorporate materials while teaching that represent different cultures, ethnicities, and traditions. They can also ensure that gender and sexual identities are acknowledged within the curriculum, and also that addressing issues related to socio-economic differences or economic disparities can make the students more uh, can make the students acknowledge those around them which are dehumanized due to their poverty. It can make them more conscious about their surroundings and the world in which they live. Also, another important facet of this is the inclusion of disabled students into mainstream activities, which can be done with, of course, materials and approaches that are accessible to them. And as we are living in an ever changing world, the curriculum must also adapt to these changes timely, and students must have access to a curriculum that reflects the diversity of the world and help them understand and help them develop a broader understanding of society. Now, on the topic of extracurriculars, when we take up anything that excites us, is interesting, or feels good, uh, it makes the learning exponentially higher automatically. And it also teaches us critical skills which help us succeed in life. Extracurricular activities contribute to the overall holistic development of a student by nurturing skills and qualities beyond academic knowledge, such as leadership, teamwork, time management, and creativity. Apart from academic courses, extracurricular activities are an additional window of learning and integrating life skills. As a case study, I would like to cite the case of government schools in rural Tamil Nadu, where the heads of these schools have said that introducing extracurriculars and co-curricular activities has helped students bond better with their teachers. It has improved the relationship of students and teachers. It has increased the trust between them. And the students' behavior have also improved. That is what the headmasters of these schools have noticed. And as my ending note, I would say that by participating in clubs, teams, or creative endeavors, students not only identify their niche, they also cultivate a sense of belonging, a purpose, self esteem, enriching their educational journey, and laying the foundation for a fulfilling life beyond the classroom, beyond academia. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Naina, for making yourself heard on this particular topic, because I definitely agree with you on the prospect of experiential learning. Because I feel that when we take in perspective the objectives of the NEP, the main objective is moving away from the rote learning perspective and towards experiential learning. So I think very well articulated. And the next set of speakers, Harshita, then we have Nishtha, then I think we have Jess Maria. Yeah. So Harshita, you may unmute.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So my topic for today is Are flipped classrooms a better fit for today's education? So the reason why I chose this topic was because I could relate to it. Uh, my transition from my school to university was kind of a flip because my school followed a traditional education style, but my university right now follows a flipped classroom style. So it was something I could relate to. So as we know, typically that class time in schools are used to deliver lectures and do all kinds of in-class work. And when we go back home, we used to get homeworks to, or assignments to do as practice, or like problem sets to do at home for our practice. But what flipped classrooms is, it's like a modern approach, but with the same typical traditional base. So it's an attempt where we finish the lectures at home, we learn at home, and the in-class time is spent used by engaging in all kinds of hands-on activities, experiential learning, discussions, peer teaching, and all kinds of projects that we do in class. So it's kind of a flip to what we typically know. So I feel there are both pros and cons to such kind of a setup. The first one I would say is pros of flipped classrooms. So first is like all the students, they are actively learning in class because they think out of the box. What we are right now, what typical education is, we stick to the textbooks. We don't think out of the box. We don't build upon existing frameworks. We don't create our own knowledge. But what flipped classrooms give us is the space to do all of it. We also incorporate the foundational knowledge that we study at home in class. So it lightens the cognitive load that we might have while we study a lot in class. So having that foundational knowledge from home and then applying it in class kinds of lightens up the pressure that students might have. Also in flipped classrooms, there are classroom activities that uh, we we are engaged in, where teaching is basically focused on developing the interpersonal skills of students, like time management or different kinds of strategies that is not typically or traditionally known right now. So that helps in better engagement with the content that we study from home. Also, what research shows is that students are more satisfied in flipped classroom learning because, number one, as I said, the cognitive load is lesser while we study in class. And second is the students can, they have their own pace of learning. So if they have access to all kinds of pre-recorded materials, they can go back home and they can study that again. So they have their own pace of learning, and in class they can apply what they've learned better. And even teachers, they are better able to interact with students, give personalized feedbacks, and also kind of address any kinds of learning concerns or needs that there's extra time to do all of that in flipped classrooms. So the question is whether it is a better fit in today's educational world. I would say there are certain cons as well, but yes, I would say that it is a better fit. Firstly, I'll talk about the cons that where it might not be effective. There has been research that flipped classrooms are better effective only in certain disciplines or subjects, like languages or technology or any kind of health science courses where you can actually practically apply and do any kinds of hands-on learning in class. But what about mathematics? What about engineering or science subjects, where you literally need to understand complicated, or you need actual practice and learning in class, under the guidance of a faculty or a professional. It's not something you can instantly learn at home. So this is one of the things. The second is that in today's world, if we see, there has been a lot of technological advancements, and flipped classrooms, it includes a lot of experiential learning and activities and use of technology, right? So, but integrating technology in today's world, it might be easy, but not all students will have access.
What about the rural areas? Urban students in urban areas, they might have easy access, but if you want to make the concept of flipped classroom a universal thing, it'll be difficult for students from backward communities or underprivileged students, or especially in rural areas, to have access to any kind of technology that they can go back home and watch the recorded lectures or anything like that. And the third is you need resources. So resources in terms of creating a lot of digital content, or high quality learning materials, that would also be fine. But teachers have to create all of this, and they don't necessarily will have all the skills to create such creative and digital content that the students can go back and have access to. So these are the three things I feel that might come in between if we have to incorporate flipped classrooms in today's education. But on the same hand, I feel that a totally flipped model wouldn't give the best outcome. You can have a combination of both flipped and the typical lecture based module that we know, because research also shows that the academic outcome of students is better for that. Because when we have this partially flipped model of both traditional lecture based and the flip thing, it allows not only the students to adjust to this new pedagogy, but even the teachers. So if there are any complex or complicated topics that need to be taught, that can happen in class. So there can be a mix and match, but any extreme wouldn't give you the best academic outcome. So just to conclude, I'll give one experience right now that um, I'm in my university, like my fourth year. So my university is completely liberal and it's multidisciplinary. So we, as students, we have a lot of courses called enable courses, where we actually have only flipped classroom style learning, where we go home, we are given pre readings and all kinds of papers to read, and we come to class, and all that we do is discuss all those pre readings, present on that, all kinds of roundtable uh, conversations like the one we're having right now. So it is something that my university follows at a very high level. Almost all kinds of courses here are, where you study from home. Not all, some. Those are called enable courses. So that's how it takes place here. But in my school, it was completely different, right? And actually, many colleges right now don't have this flipped classroom. So my college has incorporated a lot of aspects of NEP 2020 before it actually was launched as a policy. So yes, so that's how I could connect my experience to this particular topic. And I feel that if we cover all the cons that I mentioned, I think flipped classrooms is a better approach in today's educational world.
So thank you so much, Harshita, for sharing about this topic in a very comprehensive manner. Because since I think a lot of the points in your speech are coming right from experience, it actually made your speech a little more enriching. As for the cons, as for the accessibility issue, which might be faced by students in rural areas, I think that a certain collaboration between NGOs such as Sarkari School, because Sarkari School has pet projects like Project Kahani Kosh, and then we have another pet project focusing on, providing this material for digital literacy and building up a comprehensive repository. So I think that a collaboration maybe between commercial and also like social sector actors, colleges and universities would work better as far as the accessibility issue is concerned. Also, just a very curious question, and you can choose it to answer or not, but I would like to know which university you are studying in, because I think this model is worth, emulating as well as understanding.
Yeah, so I'm studying in Ahmedabad University. So it follows an entirely interdisciplinary, like multidisciplinarity and liberal format. So it's not, so my major is economics, but students get the privilege to explore a lot of fields beyond your major. You can also have a minor where you say you can combine two kinds of
different fields like say design or technology or anything. So right now I'm
Yeah.
also pursuing a minor in computer science.
Mhm.
So, and what about flipped classrooms? As I said, there are enable courses, it's entirely experiential learning based, as I said. So it may be your core courses like economics courses as well. It can be other courses that you do where you actually study. You mainly these are pre-readings, as it said. There are research papers or articles or something like that where you study from home, or where you actually make a presentation from home and then present it in class, or everything is discussion based, where you learn while you read, or while you speak. It's all, as I said, it's all experiential learning. So
Yeah.
here I used to find it a little new because I wasn't that uh, it was new for all of us, but then
Yeah,
it's
it
been
happens like students are not very accustomed to, going from a blackboard style of teaching to a flipped classroom. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's a certain, I would say a certain disenchantment with the, technique initially. But I think it's very, I would say, pioneering. And as you pointed out, that it works rather well in social sciences as well as, in subjects related to commerce. In fact, I would say that even in business management or accountancy, flipped learning would be like, it would work better if it is teamed up with a hybrid concept such as blackboard learning plus flipped learning, where we focus
I
on,
feel the same.
yeah, because it's like, firstly, we should actually aim for a conceptual understanding, maybe going forward with a theoretical base, and then moving forward in assessments, maybe we can, continue with a flipped learning system. So I think it will be creating a better feedback loop that way too. So thank you so much, Harshita. And the next speaker is Nishtha. I think you are going to speak on the same topic. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. So yeah. So question is, are flipped classrooms a better fit for today's education? So firstly, I in a typical education setting, like basically our classrooms in which students attend lectures, and then for homework they work on assignments and problem solving independently. But in flipped classroom, this sequence is reversed. Like in this, the traditional lecture format is inverted. Students are introduced to new content outside of the classroom through videos, readings, or other online resources. Class time is then dedicated to activities that promote active engagement, such as discussions, collaborative projects, problem solving, and hands-on exercise. This approach fosters a deep understanding of the material as students actively apply concepts rather than passively receiving information. So they gain a practical knowledge. These classrooms allow students to learn at their own pace. They can review materials multiple times if needed, catering to diverse learning styles and preference. For example, now I am pursuing BA History Honors. So we have to do many readings. So we review material multiple times. So the flexibility in scheduling promotes a more personalized learning experience, accommodating the varying needs and commitments of individual students. And they can also provide personalized support, address individual questions, and guide students through challenging concepts. This approach strengthens the teacher-student relationship too, creating a more supportive and interactive learning environment. Uh, Flipped classroom leverage technology as a central component. Teachers can use online platforms for content delivery, quizzes, and other interactive elements. Students develop digital literacy skills, an essential aspect of 21st century education. The use of technology aligns with the modern digital nature of today's educational landscape. So there is an active learning in flipped classrooms mirrors the skill needed in the real world. So students are better prepared for future challenges as they not only acquire knowledge but also learn how to apply it in a practical scenarios. So if these are some advantages, so there are some challenges. So like not all students may have equal access to technology. or high-speed internet, potentially creating a digital divide. Some students also may struggle with self-directed learning or lack the motivation to engage with pre-class materials independently. And there is also educate training and support for educations are essential for successful adaptation, and we know that many teachers are not supporting this classroom as their pattern of teaching is very different and they are not suitable to this modern flipped classroom. So according to me, flipped classroom can be a fantastic fit for today's education. They promote active learning, engagement, and flexibility. The model also enhances teacher-student interaction and all. So there are many countries who practice this classroom, like USA, Canada, Australia, UK, South Korea, Norway. Now it is the opportune moment for India to embark on new initiative and give a new and better education system. We should take initiative for better education and spread awareness for flipped classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nishtha. And I think, as very rightly pointed out by you, one of the challenges in flipped classroom is the lacking student motivation, which varies across, student to student as well as groups too. Because it is as much as a problem of accessibility as much as it is a problem of motivation too, because it happens as it happens that not a lot of students might have individual access to technology, let alone institutional access to it. So in that case, that can also figure as a possible hurdle, which leads to diminishing motivation in all these cases. That, if we do not actually have the resources to access what we are going to read, then how will we? And what is even the point of following it? So yes, I think very well articulated and brought out. So thank you so much, Nishtha, for sharing your views. And I think Jess Maria is up here. So yeah, Jess Maria, you may unmute and make your views known. Thank you.
Hi all. Here I'm going to talk about the how to promote diversity in education. Integrating the diversity into the curriculum is an essential step in promoting an inclusive learning environment. It could include topics like historical social movements, multicultural education, and difficult conversations that students' worldviews are broadened. And additionally, teachers should strive to use a variety of diverse reading materials to show students from a range of backgrounds that their stories and cultures matters too. And this can be done through textbook selection as well as incorporating the supplemental resources such as magazines and web pages about different countries or people throughout the world. And fostering dialogue to challenge stereotypes is a key strategy for promoting the diversity and inclusion in the classroom. During these conversations, educators can focus on listening, empathizing, and asking questions to help students analyze their views of themselves and others while understanding how they are shaped by society. It's also important that school curriculum promote the diverse perspectives through readings, discussions, or field trips. Educators should provide clear expectations for respectful discourse so all participants feel safe expressing their opinions without fear of judgment or backlash. Through fostering open dialogue among students from different backgrounds, they can learn more about each other in order to create an inclusive learning environment that values differences instead of relying on stereotypes or assumptions. And building an environment of acceptance and respect. How we can build an environment of acceptance and respect. Creating a classroom environment based on the acceptance and respect starts with the positive reinforcement and recognition. Incorporating rewards for excellent work, behavior, or attitude can help create an atmosphere of mutual respect. Teachers should take the time to acknowledge students whenever possible for their efforts in classroom, and whether it be through verbal phrase or tangible items like stickers or certificates. Additionally, teachers should encourage students feedback to ensure everyone's voice is heard. This helps foster an understanding that each individual's opinions matters and contributes to the overall learning experience within the classroom setting. Finally, providing regular opportunities for collaboration between peers allows students not to recognize each other's accomplishments but also enhances problem solving skills through constructive dialogue among the students. So now we can look how teachers can contribute or support for making the classroom more diverse or inclusive. Re-evaluating the teaching materials. By re-evaluating the teaching materials, they can make changes or in the curriculum or the teaching materials that are used by the teachers, not even textbooks but also the multimedia, using of medias, social medias, using showing the students, demonstrating the video, the chapter in a video form, etc., can make students know about different diverse or inclusivity that can brought into the classroom. And the next one is get to know the students, like making groups among the students to do the activities can make them or help them to understand each of the students, and these may bring inclusivity among the students. And the next one is be willing to address inequality, and by addressing the inequality among the students, and focusing on equal classrooms can also bring or promote diversity and inclusivity in classroom. Connect with the families and communities. By connecting with the families and communities, even without any indifferences in the classrooms, may help the students bring such a confidence in them to be supportive to others as well as themselves. So this is what I want to tell about the inclusivity and promoting the diversity in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jess Maria, for all these suggestions. And I do stand by this point that, teachers should make an equal and active effort in knowing their students. Because I think not only does that create a strong foundation for a good teacher-student rapport, but it also creates a base where students can actually share their worries, their concerns with teachers in an uninhabited manner. So thank you so much, Jess Maria, for that. And lastly, I think I would like to conclude the session with one of another speeches, because a member wasn't able to attend this session. And at the very last minute, she encountered a health emergency, which was quite urgent. So she has sent me the speech and I will read it out on her behalf. Her name is Achal Saxena. And if all of you remember, she has been quite an active speaker in our sessions. So I would like to read out her speech on accessibility of extracurricular activities. So it is as follows. Accessibility should be one of the key considerations for students in regards to extracurricular activities, but this is rarely the case. For example, for activities that involve going on the stage, such as public speaking, there are rarely any wheelchair ramps provided for students who may be wheelchair bound. Barely any sports make arrangements for the participation of the physically disabled kids. Not only this, but other activities such as painting or writing, there's a lack of accommodation for visually impaired students. Even though we see such inclusion is possible on a large scale, such as in the case of the Paralympics, we rarely see this practiced in school environments. Accessibility continues to be an afterthought, which is truly disheartening. Accessibility shouldn't be viewed as something only required in the form of reservations, affirmative actions, or exceptions in education, but an active part of it. Accessibility also isn't just for the disabled, and we often see the examples that accessible routes actually make an activity easier for everyone. We actually see examples of this in daily life, such as audio captions in movies make it easier to follow along with the dialogues, even though their primary use would have been for the hearing impaired. And wheelchair ramps have been observed to be used not for just the wheelchair users, but also anyone who needs to wheel in heavy equipment, or by people using prams for their babies. These examples don't translate completely to a schooling environment, but they also go on to show that accessibility aid is not just for the differently abled. Accessibility in extracurricular activities would similarly allow us to experience the voices of a demographic that is often left out, while also having another beneficial effect on the rest of the student body, arguably the most important of which would be keeping in mind the needs of those who are different from us. So this was written and this was to be spoken by Achal, but I spoke it on her behalf since she wasn't able to attend the session today. So my comments on this would be about the point that accessibility facilities can also be used by a lot of demographic. I think that's quite a debatable topic, because what is actually meant for the people who are, let's say, quote unquote different from us. I think to a large extent opening up these accessibility features to a lot of population, a lot of general population who can also use that, it might lead to a certain crowding out effect, which might alienate again the disabled population from using these facilities. If, for example, lifts for the visually impaired, because since climbing up a flight of stairs is not very feasible for them, and this has been observed in school, universities, and colleges, that whenever there is a lift, there is again a crowding out effect with a lot of people going inside the lift, and again, the thing which was meant for the disabled people to access, they are not again able to access that. So while this remains, I think the broad essence of including accessibility friendly curriculum patterns as well as extracurricular activities is, I think, the need of the hour. Because I feel that sports, extracurricular activities, and holistic education is a fundamental right, even for the disabled, even for the specially abled. So I think that we are quite, on a point where we all agree with the sentiment of inclusivity, as well as, integrating new and innovative solutions that keep up with time. So since I think there is a lot of I would say there has been a lot of time when we have where we have discussed all these things, and I won't like to stretch the session to like an ungodly limit. But yeah, I think that what we took away from the session was quite pertinent, and I think this is an individual assignment for all of you. Yeah, that from today's policy Manthan session, all of you can engage with a speech of a speaker other than you. I mean, you can pick one speech which you, I think, actually stood out the most to you or which you like the most, and write down your like analysis or any critical or questioning takes you have on that speech. And I'm writing down my ID in the comments section. So do send it to me, and do tag, I think, the editorial. I would like to, form a very comprehensive bunch of answers to any questions you might have had from your speakers, and any takes you would like to pose, in response to their speeches, whether they are appreciative, whether they are critical, or whether they are simply analytic. So yeah, I mean, the maximum length for this would be like a paragraph or so, because it's like I wouldn't like you to write a whole document on it since you're already very, occupied with your research project. So I think that doing so will actually help us engage better with our co-speakers and co-authors to a large extent, because I think as much as policy manthans are about voicing your own views about issues, I think it's also very pertinent to engage with others on a same parallel. So I'm just writing down my email ID. You may screenshot it, or you may, just copy it on a location, write down a paragraph, and do send it to me. You may do it in the body of the email. You may do it as separate Word doc. So just like up to 250 or 350 words will just suffice. I mean, it's quite a spontaneous exercise. So you have the time till tomorrow or whenever you think you can accommodate it, so that we can engage better with all the views which were presented today. So the topic for this is, do engage with the speech of one speaker other than you, and write your own summarized take or any other take you would like to, you would have liked to vocalize if a question answer session would have happened today. But due to time constraints, we won't be conducting this, but maybe in the other session, we will be integrating it. So thank you so much for joining the session today. And I think it was a very good learning experience for me as well. Because as a moderator, while my goal is to steer the discussion forward, I feel that engaging with the speakers is also one of my duties, as well as I do it with pleasure. So thank you so much all, and I think with this we'll be ending today's